Hi and welcome back. In this second Blender Game Engine tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up physics basics. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and select my little cube character here, and I'm going to come over here to the Materials panel, and I'm going to take the existing material here. Again, if you did not see a material, it would look a lot like this. I'll just go ahead and click on plus to add a new material, and I'll go ahead and rename it. And I'll call it boxy. Give it a basic color, and I'll go ahead and I'll give the ground material just to make it easier to see. Okay, and we'll go ahead and give it kind of a light green. Okay, so now onto the physics. I'm going to select my cube character, and I'm going to come all the way over here to the far right, and I'm going to be looking for this little panel that looks like a little bouncing ball. If you don't see that icon, it's probably because your right side of your toolbar is not wide enough, so you can't see it. So the way you can fix that is put your mouse pointer right on this little line right here where the border is, left click and drag to the left until you see that little icon. So this is the physics panel, and you can see the name of the object right here, and so the object is called cube. And the physics type, by default, all objects are static. So they can be collided with, you can hit them, but they're not going to really react. They're completely static. So I'm going to click on this, and you can see that there's a whole bunch of different types of choices here. The most common that we'll be using this semester are going to be static, dynamic, and rigid body. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to look at right now dynamic and rigid body. So I'm going to choose dynamic, and you'll see that we get a whole bunch of more options now. I'm going to lift my cube up a little higher, and now if I go ahead and I just press the letter P to get in game, you'll see that the cube does in fact fall. So gravity is active and gravity is acting on it. Let's see if I change it to rigid body. There are some minor changes down here. Let's see if that behaves any differently. Okay, so it looks like it behaves the exact same. Now let's go back to dynamic. Let's look at dynamic. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the cube a little bit because this is where you should see a difference between dynamic and rigid body. So I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis, and I'm just going to rotate it so that it's on its angle like this. So when it hits the floor, let's see how it reacts. So press play, and you see that it just goes right into the ground. And it actually goes through the ground, so that's a little bit of a problem. Let's change it now to rigid body and see if there's much of a change. Okay, so again, you'll see not much of a change, even though we've changed the physics type. So what gives? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to tell Blender Game Engine a little bit more about the shape of the object. And so since this is a cube, it's a box, we want to come down here, and at the bottom you'll see a little area called collision bounds. And this is where you tell the Blender Game Engine what shape the object is. So first of all, you have to turn on collision bounds. And what you'll notice about the object is you'll now see a little dashed line going through here. If I press Z and I choose wireframe, let's see if you can see it. Not really. Okay, so I'll go back to solid view. Oops, texture view. So now it's telling us that we have collision bounds on, and when you come down here in the bottom right hand corner, you can click on the bounds pop-up menu and you can choose a whole bunch of different shapes. The simpler the shape, the better your game is going to run. So for most objects, box is going to work great. Okay, so now I've turned on collision bounds. I've told Blender Game Engine that it's a box shape, which of course works perfectly for this actor here. The physics type, I have it set to dynamic. I'm going to press P. Okay, so now you'll notice that it falls, but it does not go through the ground. Okay, so the collision bounds is working. I'm now going to change it to rigid body, press play, and now you'll see that it tumbles over. So that's the major difference between dynamic and rigid body, is that they both have gravity. Okay, so we're back. I'm going to go ahead, and I don't want my actor to wobble and fall all over the place. So generally, if you have to choose between dynamic and rigid body, dynamic is definitely the more stable of the two, literally stable. I'm going to reset the character's rotation here, and I'm going to press Option R for that, and that's what the option symbol looks like on a Mac. So now here it is. If I press P, it falls, and if I press W and hold it, you'll see that it goes ahead and moves. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do in this short video is I'm going to show you that when I switched from static to dynamic and I enabled gravity, I got a much more complex actuator down here, a motion actuator. And you'll see that even though my text is a little dark, I apologize about that. I have movement on the location, and I have it set to 0.25. I'm going to go ahead and bring that back down to 0. But down here, if I want a more physics-based movement, there is a row down here called linear velocity, and I have the X, Y, and Z option here, and I'm moving on the Y-axis, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to try linear velocity on the Y. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a number of 1, and let's see what this looks like. So if I press P and I press W, you'll see it's moving very slowly. I'm going to go ahead and move this down a little bit. There we go. So it's moving very slowly, so I need a little bit more force. So I'm going to bump it up to 3. Okay, so now if I press play and I press W, you'll see that it's moving a little bit better. Maybe I need to increase that. I'll go ahead and bump it up to 6. Okay, so what linear velocity will do is it will go ahead and it'll give me a little bit more of a natural acceleration. When I let go of W, it will have a little bit of a slide. And I'll talk about in a future video how to alleviate that slide, take it down a little bit, or remove it altogether. But that's it right there. So using linear velocity versus just location is a little bit more physics-based. It's a little bit more realistic. So if you're looking for that added realism, I think you're going to want linear velocity. In the next video, we're going to talk about local and global axes and coordinates, and that'll get a little bit more on the technical side, but I'll go ahead and I'll demo this for you, and we'll see how that works out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save this because I have been working all this time and not saved it yet, so I'll just go ahead and do File Save. Again, over here on the left-hand side, you want to make sure you click on Desktop, and then up here it's going to say what folder you're in, users, your name, your desktop folder. Click here on Untitled Blend, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to type in BGE demo. I'm going to press the return key and it adds in the .blend, and then I need to click over here on the far right hand side, Save Blender File, and you'll see that it puts the name up there in the top center. Okay, that's it for this tutorial, and in the next one I'll go ahead and we'll start talking about and setting up turning, and then we'll get into some eventual jumping, things like that. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next video.